The year is 2001. Shall we play a game? This is Spy Game.
A week ago, Tom Bishop disappeared in Hong Kong. Last night he turned up outside Shanghai. He's been arrested for espionage. Bishop has been classified as a common criminal and will be executed at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, our time.
How long does the president have to claim him?
24 hours.
Starting when?
As of now, Nathan.
Technology gets better every day, that's fine. Most of the time, all you need is a stick of gum, a pocket knife, and a smile.
That's disappointing.
You used me. I did, and listen to this, because this is important. If you had pulled some stunt over there, if you had gotten nabbed, I wouldn't come after you. You go off the reservation, I will not come after you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Random Rewatch. This is Mike, and we are taking on the 2001 spy thriller Spy Game, starring Robert Redford, Brad Pitt, directed by Tony Scott. I was kind of motivated to do this film after, reading about the death of Robert Redford in September, and I wanted to try to find a film that, obviously I hadn't seen in a while, in going with what we do here on the channel, but also one that maybe people are not really connecting with Robert Redford in first thought. And Spy Game really kind of fit down into that niche very nicely. Obviously, being a Tony Scott film, I love Tony Scott. If you're a regular listener, this is like the fourth Tony Scott film we've done. Robert Redford is, if you think about a movie star, Robert Redford has got to be one of the first guys to come to mind. This is someone whose film career has spanned almost 7 decades, from his first on-screen appearance in 1960 in the film Tall Story, where he had an uncredited role, to his last on-screen appearance in 2019 in Avengers Endgame. 4-time Academy Award nominee for both acting and directing. He does have 1 Academy Award win for directing. 2-time British Academy Film Award, a BAFTA Award nominee. He has 5 Golden Globes. He's got 3 Emmy nominations. This guy has spanned many people's lifetimes. First film that I remember seeing in the movie theater is The Sting when I was very young. Probably, it was the 70s. My parents probably couldn't get a babysitter. So they're like, yeah, bring the 4-year-old to an R-rated movie, no problem. Some of his most significant films: Barefoot in the Park in 1967, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, The Candidate in 1972, The Sting and the Way We Were in 1973, 3 Days of the Condor in 1975, All the President's Men in 1976, Brubaker in 1980, The Natural 84, Out of Africa 85, Sneakers in 92, Indecent Proposal in 93, The Horse Whisperer in 98. And then he was introduced to a new generation in 2014 in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Some of the notable films that he's directed: Ordinary People in 1980, his first film, which he won a Best Director Oscar, and the film won a Best Picture Oscar. A River Runs Through It in 92 with Brad Pitt. Quiz Show, Horse Whisperer, Civil Action, Legend of Bagger Vance, The Conspirator, The Company You Keep, A Walk in the Woods. His last director's credit is in a documentary called Cathedrals of Culture in 2014. So this film was written by, original story by Michael Frost Beckner, who is mostly well known for his involvement in the Sniper series of movies. He also has written several novels in the Spy Game universe. Also worked on Cutthroat Island, Prince Valiant. The other screenwriter is David Arata, who is best known for his work on Children of Men in 2007. He also did Broke Down Palace and The Angel. This film was originally going to be directed by a Dutch director, Mike Van Diem, who had recently won an Oscar in 1998 for his 1997 film Character. This film is it's a real international production. There are several production companies involved in the film: American, French, Japanese, German. It was filmed mostly in Morocco. There were some sequences that were filmed in Beirut. There was, in the late 90s, there was a TV series named Spy Game. There was a film in 1999 named Spy Games. Neither one of them have anything to do with this project. This is a completely original story. Eventually, Van Diem dropped out. The film wound up in front of Tony Scott, who took it up. And that's how we got the film we know. There's really not a lot of pre-production on this. This was not a long, drawn-out process. This film got passed around. It got picked up really quickly and got put into production pretty quickly. Studios knew what they were doing. The production companies knew that this was going to be a pretty big hit. Right around the same time, they were looking at putting together a film based on the Bourne Ultimatum or the Bourne Identity. So this was a genre that was gathering some attention, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Tony Scott was kind of nervous to work with Robert Redford. Pitt was, at the time, he was committed to Ocean's 11, but they worked out the schedule there. Brad Pitt was originally looking at the Bourne Identity, but when he found out that Robert Redford was attached to this film, he dropped out of that and decided to do this film instead. I'm not really sure that was a great move on his part. I mean, obviously, the Bourne franchise kind of took off and became huge. He would have been a lead and not a second character. His character in this film doesn't have tons of screen time, but on the other hand, getting to work with Redford again was apparently a big draw for him, so he decided that he was going to go into it. Tony Scott had just come off of doing Enemy of the State, one of his best films. He brought with him his cinematographer from that film, Dan Mindell. He also brought his composer with him from that film, Harry Gregson Williams. If there was an action film in, the mid-90s, early 2000s, there's a good chance that Gregson Williams was going to work on it. He had worked with Tony Scott prior on Revenge, but he did The Rock with Michael Bay. He did The Replacement Killers with Antoine Fuqua. He did Enemy of the State, as I said, with Tony Scott. Armageddon again with Michael Bay. He would go on to do Spy Kids with Robert Rodriguez. He did Phone Booth with Joel Schumacher. He did The Rundown with Peter Berg. He did Man on Fire again with Tony Scott. In fact, he would go on to do, he would do Deja Vu. He would do Unstoppable. He would do The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. He worked with Tony Scott a lot, but he worked with a lot of other action directors during the time as well. And his score really kind of drives that home. This is a really, really great score in this movie. So let's get into it. So we find out that this story takes place, or at least it starts in 1991. We are in a Chinese prison where we see a group of people coming in to give inoculations to the prisoners. Brad Pitt is one of the guys on this team, but we also see early roles here from Ken Leung and Benedict Wong. And so we have this crazy action sequence where Brad Pitt takes some kind of pill and then he intentionally gives himself an electric shock from the power panel, which causes his heart to stop. And then they do some CPR on him. It doesn't work. They take him off to the morgue. They send the guys back to finish up the inoculations. We find out that Brad Pitt's not actually dead, and he starts sneaking through the prison. He's there to break somebody out, a young woman. We don't know who that is at this point. They sneak her out on the gurney underneath where his body is. They take him out to the ambulance, and the prison warden, who is played by a Hong Kong actor, Ho Yi, figures out that there's a prison break going on and stops the ambulance, and they get captured. At least Brad Pitt gets captured. We're in Hong Kong. We see a guy making a phone call. This is Harry Duncan, played by David Hemmings, well-known British actor and director. And he is waking up Nathan Muir, played by Robert Redford. I mean, I said it before, but I'll say it again. You look up movie star in the dictionary, you're going to see Robert Redford's picture. This guy just holds the screen wherever he is. He's just got such an easy charm about him and this is a role that for him is kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad guy, but it's not a good guy either. Muir he's a difficult person to get your head around. And he's one of these people who just does what he thinks is necessary. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the story. But Harry is calling Muir and telling him, you got to get to a secure location. You got to call me before I send a cable. You have to, do you want to know what's going on with it? Obviously, he's tipping Muir off to something that happened, which is likely the jailbreak attempt and the capture of Brad Pitt's character. We see that Muir works at the CIA. Typical Tony Scott establishing shot here, and then he's walking in. But not only is he working at the CIA, but apparently today is his last day.
Sorry, sir. You need to come to the desk with me, please.
Mr. Muir. Duty roster has you checking out tonight. Just a reminder, on your way out, we need you to sign out your ID, card key, parking pass.
So he winds up getting a copy of the cable. We find out that Muir is one of these guys who he knows people all over the building. He's calling in favors. He's calling in old relationships. He kind of tricks people, tells people what they want to hear. He has no compunction about lying to somebody or doing something that he's not supposed to be doing. It's like he doesn't even give it a second thought. We meet his secretary, Gladys. I say secretary. She's more his co-conspirator in a lot of things. But this is Marianne Jean-Baptiste. She is a British actress, Academy Award and BAFTA nominee. This is one of her early roles, but she's got a solid career of great supporting character roles in addition to some good television credits. She's probably most well known to American audiences for Without a Trace and Blind Spot. And then we meet Charles Harker, who is the Deputy Director for Operations, and he is played by Stephen Delane, another British actor. He is going to be most well known to people for his role of Stannis Baratheon in Game of Thrones. And he's going to wind up being the kind of the antagonist to Muir throughout the entire movie. Anyway, he's there looking for some files.
You used to run an agent named Bishop.
Tom Bishop. Yeah, how is he?
We'd like to take a look at his files.
You try records?
Of course, we have his main files. It was your personals.
What do you want to know?
We'll have your Bishop op reports downloaded and sorted in an hour or two. That should give us all the info we need. For now, I'll just take your files.
Grab yourself a seat and make yourself comfortable. It's going to take me a while to dig them up.
Muir is very cagey about the whole thing. He's kind of not wanting to give up. You get the feeling that this is a guy who never volunteers any kind of information. After Harkins leaves, he puts a bunch of stuff in a burn bag and gives it to Gladys and tells her to hold on to it until he gets a hold of her. Then he goes to operations to bring some information to Harkins and whoever the people are who are dealing with this. Originally, they don't let him into the operation room, and so he's kind of hanging out outside and picks up an earpiece and just starts to listen to one of the press releases that's going on and figures out that whatever they're worried about, it has to do with this trade deal and this summit that the president is going to be speaking to the Chinese premier. And so this is whatever's going on in Hong Kong or in China is going to possibly muck that up. Eventually, he gets himself invited into the conference room, and there's a whole bunch of people in there, including, kind of oddly, Michael Paul Chan, who has like one line in the movie. But we wind up meeting Troy Folger, who is Folger, who is the deputy director of the CIA. He's played by Larry Brigham, well-known daytime actor, played Dr. John Dixon on the soap As the World Turns. Did a bunch of movies, probably most notably And Justice for All and Die Hard with a Vengeance. Did a lot of theater work. Has won 2 Obie Awards. Nominated for 2 Tonys. I want you to watch Folger and Muir throughout the whole thing. It kind of becomes apparent. I kind of noticed it on my second watch, and then, as I was taking notes and watching it again, it really just became clear that Muir and Folger have got a past, and they've known each other for a long time. But you get the idea that it's more than that. That Folger has, these guys have had stuff going on that they do not want this task force to know about. And there's a lot of like kind of looks between the two of them, and you know, kind of silent understandings. It's like, oh, we're going to say this. We're not going to say this. I'm going to leave you out of this, so you're going to cover me. They don't say any of that, but it's really becomes clear as you're watching it that that's kind of what's going on with these two. So I found it really interesting to watch specifically these two when they're in a room together and somebody asks Nathan a question and the looks that he gives to Folger and the looks that Folger gives back to him. Really kind of interesting. Anyway, so Folger starts to explain the situation to Muir.
A week ago, Tom Bishop disappeared in Hong Kong. Last night he turned up outside Shanghai. He's been arrested for espionage. We're working up a complete profile based on relevant personal histories and op records. This has to be handled with kid gloves.
How long does the president have to claim him?
24 hours.
Starting when?
As of now, Nathan.
And now we have a running clock. We have one of these kind of famous Tony Scott slam cuts where there's that big like boom sound, and we go to black and white, a freeze frame, and the clock is off and the clock is running. We have 24 hours. So we start to get this backstory about how Muir met Bishop. He was an operative in Vietnam. He was looking for a sniper. The sniper that he was there to get had been killed. And so Bishop was recommended to him. And we have this conversation of them meeting and when he learned to shoot.
Sir. Here, have a seat. I take it you didn't get to be a marksman putting food on your mama's table.
No, sir, we have a Safeway back home.
Where'd you learn to shoot?
Boy Scout, sir.
Are you kidding me?
No, sir.
When did you get pulled in?
Volunteered, sir.
And so then we have a look at an operation that the two of them did, this going after this guy called Red Shirt, and how the op was going to go south, but Bishop pulled the op out and had to be rescued. Him and his spotter, played by Benedict Wong, had to be pulled out of the operation, but they finally got him. And then Muir has him transferred to Germany. He decides he's going to recruit him, decides he's going to isolate him. And so he puts him in like kind of this dead end job where everybody around him only speaks German, and to really kind of make him feel like he's alone, and then orchestrates, oh, I'm going to bump into him at a train station, invite him to a Christmas party, and that's when he kind of sets the hook. In the meantime, we see that Nathan's office is being tossed. You know, they're obviously searching for something. They think he has more information than he does. So there's kind of two pieces going on throughout this movie. One is what's happening in this conference room and what Nathan is trying to accomplish, and then a lot of flashbacks to the story about Nathan and Bishop. Anyway, so we have this pretty cool fieldcraft montage where, Nathan talks about where we started his training the next day, and all this kind of advice that he gives him about, always just have like a pack of cigarettes and a lighter in your pocket because that'll start a lot of conversations.
Every building, every room, every situation, a snapshot.
I'm sitting here talking to you.
I'm also checking the room, memorizing the people, what they're wearing. Then I ask the question, what's wrong with this picture? Anything suspect? You gotta see it, assess it, and dismiss most of it without looking, without thinking.
Without thinking.
It's just like breathing. You breathe, don't you? Always carry cigarettes in the lighter, too. It's a great icebreaker.
Never give away too much information. If you're going to ask somebody, if you're going to use somebody as an asset, you're going to get information out of them. You can't give them information about yourself. Never lie to people if you can help it, because then you have to maintain the lie. Just kind of stuff like that. Always drink 12-year-old scotch. He gives them this kind of odd advice about putting aside money.
What else do I need to know?
Put away some money so you can die someplace warm. Don't ever touch it. Not for anyone, ever.
Okay. That it?
Don't ever risk your life or your career for an asset.
Comes down to you or them, send flowers.
Which is something that we're going to see comes back later. All in all, it's actually a really cool montage. We find out that Bishop is very talented. He has a natural ability for this type of work. There's a funny little scene where they're at a cafe and Nathan asks him about, do you know anybody in that building? I want to see you on standing on one of those balconies in 5 minutes, which he is able to do. Then we get into this event where they're in Germany, and Bishop is smuggling an asset out of Germany. Nathan is at some kind of embassy event or something like that, and he runs into someone named Anne Cathcart, who is played by Charlotte Rampling, who we saw in Dune.
Patricia left me and she filed for divorce.
So sorry, Nathan. How is it I always say the wrong things?
Patricia? Yeah, my third wife.
My God, how many wives have you had?
4. You want to hear about them or Bishop?
And we find out that Bishop is about to get caught smuggling this guy out, so Nathan tells him, you just have to cut him loose. Just push him out of the car and let him go.
Throw out the bottle. They know.
They don't know.
They'll be waiting. Drop as close to checkpoint as possible.
Negative, we're coming across.
No. That's an order.
They come around.
You have to let him go.
They will kill him.
And we find out that the whole thing was a decoy, that this guy that he was smuggling out, this guy Schmidt, was actually trying to turn Bishop. And the whole thing was a sting to set up Anne Cathcart, who was handing information off to the Soviets. They were just trying to trap her. Turns out they wound up killing her as well. And Bishop was not really happy with Nathan for doing that, for setting him up. And Nathan's got to kind of set him straight.
You don't just trade these people like they're baseball cards. It's not a game.
Oh, yes, it is. It's exactly what it is. And it's no kid's game either. This is a whole other game. And it's serious and it's dangerous. And it's not one you want to lose.
Nathan, we killed this man. We used him and we killed him.
So we see right away, like, what kind of a person Nathan is. He is just this cold, utilitarian, by the book. This is what needs to be done for the greater good, and this is what we're going to do no matter the cost. And that is very different from what Tom's philosophy is, who is like, people matter. And Nathan is basically like, not only do people not matter, you don't matter.
You should have told me about the op. You used me. I did, and listen to this, because this is important. If you had pulled some stunt over there, if you had gotten nabbed, I wouldn't come after you. You go off the reservation, I will not come after you.
But in the meantime, we see that Nathan has gone to the press, even though the working group, Harkins and Troy had told him not to. He winds up going through a back door, dropping a story about Bishop being imprisoned. We find out that the CIA was bugging the Chinese to get an advantage in the trade talks, that Bishop was not part of that. We then see that the CIA has planted a fake story saying that the story that Muir had planted was fake and was a rumor that had been debunked. And so there's all this back and forth with the working group, the task force, and Muir. Muir's kind of working on his own thing. The task force is trying to get to the bottom of everything. And it's all intercut with Bishop in the Chinese prison being tortured. And so Muir decides he's going to let a little bit more information out, and he mentions something to them that about Bishop that is not in the op reports.
I know who Bishop was after.
Well, so do we.
But you know why? I mean, if anybody knew the backstory, I mean, it's just that it would make a congressional hearing really worth watching. And by the way, that's not in the op reports.
Meanwhile, he's working the room in the task force and using his field experience to gain information from those guys on what they have going on. And then we go back to this operation in Beirut in 1985, which is a very hot time for Americans in Beirut. And we find this woman, Elizabeth Hadley, who Nathan says is the person that Tom is going after. So she's running a refugee camp in Beirut. Bishop kind of gets in with her by giving her supplies. There's this whole plot about there's this sheik who is coming to Beirut that they want to take out, but they have to make it look natural. So they're going to recruit his physician who's going to be examining him while he's in Beirut.
Sheikh Salameh was our target. He ran a large terrorist faction that had taken out a number of American targets, including at least one of the embassy bombings, that left 212 people dead, mostly civilians. An assassination was not an option. He needed to appear to die of natural causes to avoid violent repercussions and even more bloodshed. His base of operations was Cyprus. What we knew about him was that he was extremely dangerous,
and Hadley works with the physician. So Tom is trying to get in with Hadley so that he can get close to the doctor. Bishop is able to get a story published on the doctor, kind of a vanity piece, which makes the doctor, kind of he's posing as a journalist. And so that makes the doctor kind of trust him. And so he then recruits the doctor in on this plot to kill the sheik because the sheik is responsible for the death of the doctor's family. So Nathan is able to turn the doctor. But meanwhile, Nathan is worried about Elizabeth and that she may be trying to turn Tom.
Asset, huh? Did it ever occur to you she might see you as an asset?
Yes, it did, and I'm telling you, you're wrong.
How'd you two meet? Did you mark her, or was it the other way around? Did she get you to do her any favors?
Nathan, you're out of line. Drop it. It's under control.
How about him? Rajiv Nabi, you got him under control? Hezbollah. She uses him to finance her camp, and he uses her for God knows what. Tell me I'm wrong, Tom. Tell me you knew about him.
Because he knows that her past is not as clean as Tom had thought it was. And so he kind of drops a hint to Tom about her and what she may have been up to. And so he confronts her and finds out that she, not only does she work in this refugee camp, but she is like kind of an activist and is working against the Chinese government.
Why can't you go home?
Why? Why?
I was involved with a human rights group in London. We bombed a building owned by the Chinese government. It was supposed to be empty and it wasn't. And I have to live with that. Fine. Well, that's me. What about you?
So they send the doctor in, but there's also Nathan had been working with the Lebanese militia, and so there turns out there's a bombing, and the sheik gets killed, the doctor gets killed. So Nathan, we find out, had arranged to turn Elizabeth Hadley over to the Chinese government in exchange for some favors. But mainly, from his point of view, he wanted to get her out of the way because she thought that he was compromising Tom. We find out that the reporter that Nathan had dropped the story to is actually an MI6 front. Nathan goes and cashes out his retirement and starts to pass out bribe money to Chinese officials to allow him to work on getting Tom out. He had already figured out who the commanding officer of like the local U.S. Special Forces team was in there who had been on standby to do something. And so he kind of works his way around to getting orders for this guy. And we find that this is Nathan really going back on everything that he told Tom, because he told Tom, if you go off the reservation, I'm not coming after you. Never spend your own money. And he's doing both of those things. He orders up some satellite imagery of the prison, but then he switches it for satellite imagery that he had of some beachfront property that he was planning on buying in the Bahamas. So when he gets caught out for using the satellite office, he has a story as to what that was for, which is totally false.
Difficult to explain.
I think you'd better tell us everything.
I've been using company resources for personal benefit. For the past year, I've been routing one of our satellites over some retirement property that I'm thinking about buying.
And there's a scene where Harkins is asking him if like anybody else was involved in, you know, his plot, and he gives a look to Troy, and then he says no. So you know that, and I think I said this before, you know that Troy and Nathan have got a past, and they've definitely been involved in things together that Troy in his position does not want to come out. So Nathan's kind of taking the heat, and Troy is in his own way trying to provide him as much cover as he can.
And you took it upon yourself to do this deal, and you were alone in this.
Yeah, just me.
So Nathan winds up getting on the phone with the commander of the Special Forces. This is Dale Dye. You've seen this guy in 100 movies. He's an ex-military officer who came into Hollywood as a technical consultant, U.S. Marine, Vietnam War vet, got his start in the movie Platoon, which we've talked about. And just, if there's a movie with military in it, there's probably an 80% chance that somebody is going to cast Dale Dye in it. Whether it's something goofy like Invaders from Mars, but he was in Born on the 4th of July, Casualties of War, Firebirds, The Fourth War, JFK, Under Siege, Natural Born Killers, Outbreak, Mission Impossible, Starship Troopers, Saving Private Ryan. I mean, this guy is in all the movies. He's got a really small part. It's like one scene. He's standing in the rain. He just is like, yes, sir. But we see that the plan, Operation Dinner Out, is on the move.
Commander Wiley, sir! Package received. What's about it?
We're on for tonight.
Roger, sir. Understand. Operation Dinner Out is a go. Confirmed?
Correct. Dinner out is a go.
Dinner out's a go. Hell of a way to speak to your wife.
Why do you think they keep dumping him?
The rescue happens, and it's a success, and the brass is starting to come around to Muir's side. At least it's one of these things where, like, everybody understands what's happening. Nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to give their consent of it, but they're also not going to prosecute him, or they're not going to push him too hard. And then we see that the whole thing winds up just getting covered up as an incident in China, and nobody is really going to give any kind of public acknowledgement as to what happened. But that's it. That's the end of the movie. So the movie was released November 21st, 2001. Tough time to release a movie. Had a $21 million opening weekend. Wound up doing $62.4 million in North America, $80 million and change in international release for a total of $143 million on a $115 million budget. So not a big hit, but like I said, that was a rough time for a movie. The end of 2001. It was just kind of weird. It's got a 64 on Rotten Tomatoes, a 63 on Metacritic. That's harsh. I think that's harsh. It's got a B+ on Cinescore. Roger Ebert, 2.5 stars. He said that Spy Game, directed by Tony Scott, is all style and surface, a slick artifact made of quick cutting and the kind of rough glamour you find in fashion ads. Rat-a-tat datelines identify times and places. Okay, that's fair. He also said it's not a bad movie, mind you. It's clever and shows a great control of craft, but it doesn't care, and it's hard for us to care about. To see it once is to plumb the bottom of its mysteries and beyond. All right, that's probably fair too. It's not particularly deep, as some of these Tony Scott movies are. It's entertaining. I think that Redford especially is very entertaining in this movie because it plays a little against type for him. We're not used to seeing him as this kind of, he's not really a bad guy, but he's also not a good guy. Let's put it this way. He's a good guy, but he's not a nice guy. And that's not something that we are particularly used to seeing Robert Redford doing. being kind of a jerk. He's entertaining to watch. There are also 3 novels that were written by Michael Frost Beckner in this universe. I mentioned that before. They are all referred to as the Aiken trilogy. Aiken is one of the characters who was in the task force. He just gets a brief name check. But apparently, and I haven't read them, apparently he's kind of one of the central characters in the books. The books are called Muir's Gambit, which is a prequel. Bishop's Endgame and Aiken in Check. So if you're interested, check those out. But that is Spy Game, and thank you for listening. Be sure to check out our merch store. We've got some cool stuff in there, some cool t-shirts, a really good coffee mug that I use mine every day. And let me tell you, it'll hold ice for like 40 hours. It's crazy. But check out our stuff. Check out the rest of our podcast on our YouTube channel. And we will catch you next time. We got a couple of good movies coming up for the end of the year. So we're working on that. And have a great day.